Always remember, the opinion you follow should be your own. Just consider the things stated here to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online.
Happy Friday, Mike.
Happy Friday, Phil, and everybody out there in listening world. I don't know if you could tell by my shirt if you're watching on YouTube, which nobody does. Everybody always just listening to Spotify or Apple or something. But I'm sweating here at my desk. It's pretty warm down here in southern Baja right now. During the day, anyways. It cools down at night. But whew. So we're gonna make it through this heat wave.
Yeah, we're having a heat wave here, all the way in the Pacific Northwest. People, all they think about is rain when they think about this area, but we get a heat streak every year, and it started a few days ago.
Yep.
It's rougher here because, and I say rougher here. I know it's probably even worse in Mexico, but it's rougher here in the Pacific Northwest because I think I saw a stat where it's like 70 to 80% of us do not have air conditioners.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, that's rough.
Mike, I absolutely know what I want to start talking about.
Okay.
I want to tell a very quick little story. Growing up, when I was given the times that I was allowed to watch TV, one of my favorite things to do was I'd tune right in to PBS. If it was the weekends, it was cartoons. If it was the weekdays, it was PBS.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, it doesn't even exist now. There was a show called Zoom that I used to like to watch. I used to like to watch the Electric Company and so on.
Sesame Street.
Mm-hmm. Well, everybody knows Sesame Street.
Mr.
If you don't know
Rogers.
Sesame, oh man. But what I'm getting to is, even though I enjoyed it, there are things that I refer back to all the time that I learned specifically from PBS. Whether it's some cultural thing that I know, whether it's something I know about another country or another people, there's certain things I learned about the law, about math, all types of things that to this day I refer to. Yet it seems as though its value has just totally shrunk, especially in the last decade. And obviously I'm headed toward, they're trying to get rid of PBS and NPR. And Mike, I want to know what's your opinion about this? This is the Republicans doing this. This is the Republicans that want to get rid of NPR. So my question is, do you think it's right? Do you think there's an alternative option? And I'll just leave it like that, Mike. Where's your head about them getting rid of this?
Well, first off, I want to agree with you and say that I remember watching all of those shows, but certainly a lot of my knowledge base of travel, particularly like countries or places that, probably as Americans, we wouldn't normally go in Africa or South America, in the Amazon or wherever, came from watching some of those, quote, documentary shows on PBS. And to some extent, I've listened to a whole mess of things on NPR as well, on the radio. Same thing, where you glean a bunch of, I'll call it, for the sake of right now, for our discussion, I'll call it that those are non-biased programs, right? Like you're just learning about whether it's history or the area or the people that live in those places or whatnot. Now, having said that, and I'm probably going to take the less than popular approach here, which is usually my MO, I guess. But I'm sure I've got friends out there that are going to disagree with me on this. But I kind of think, forget about politics for a second. You're right. The Republicans basically want to get rid of public broadcasting because they claim that it is skewed and slanted with a bias towards the liberal side. and they think it's a propaganda machine. So it's not just NPR and PBS; it's also Voice of America and various other things that are basically funded or quasi-funded by the U.S. government. But forget about the politics for a second. Let's just hypothetically pretend that we don't even know whether or not it skews left or not. I kind of think, and this is probably where my unpopular opinion is going to come from, I kind of think the time for these networks has come to an end. And the reason that I think that is because, we're here sitting in 2025 now. People glean their information in many other ways. And particularly coming from, the two of us here. I mean, you used to get your information from a podcast for sure when we were growing up. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have independent journalism. That's the thing is, so today there's independent journalism and whatever that means. And that's a very loose and very sloppy statement. I get it. Because that ranges everything from these annoying TikTok people that are, I was watching yesterday. I'm getting off topic already here, but I was watching on TikTok yesterday. I'll scan while I'm going to bed, and I don't know if you've ever seen these. You get the guy, the rights activist guy that goes to police stations and the library and goes to the post office and films. And the police always come along. You can't film in here. This is federal building. This is a police station. Blah blah blah. And he's like, no. It's your Second Amendment. Blah blah blah. They're going on and on. But and he always claims, well, I'm an independent journalist. Well, what does that mean? I mean, all that means is that you're a guy with a camera and a microphone. However, there is a lot of good programming. There's a lot of good independent studios out there now. There's a lot of programming across the world in various mediums that I think have not just replaced public broadcasting, but I mean, let's be honest. I think the days of network television and all those, it's all coming to an end, right? We gather and we get our information and our entertainment in other ways nowadays. So I'm going to take the tack that I agree from a financial standpoint. I'm not sure why the U.S. government needs to fund media any longer. I mean, media has become, and you and I have talked about this on the podcast a zillion times, media hasn't just become, it always has been, but it's always got a bias one way or another, all media. So by definition, PBS, NPR, they have a bias. And it may vary depending on what show you're listening to for sure and whatnot. But I just think that I don't know why the government need. I mean, maybe here's my libertarian coming through. The government should not be in that business. There may have been a time and a place. It's similar to like, I would argue at one point in our history in the United States, unions were important. Based on the structure, the way that enterprise business worked, the way that laws were written. But today, it's questionable whether the union's doing much more than sucking the people that are in the union dry of their money. So I know that's I just insulted everybody in the United States probably, but
so let me ask you a straightforward question.
Yes.
Should PBS and NPR continue receiving federal funding?
I don't think so. Okay. And I don't think so because I think that our money, I don't think that's one of the government's, as much as I enjoyed it. And back in the day, if I wanted to know about giraffes living in the Serengeti, I got that information from PBS. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really have any other option. I didn't have any other choices really to get that information. So the government at that time was providing, quote, a service to the citizens of the United States by educating us in that manner. But today, the government of the United States, by funding PBS, would be basically competing with other medias out there that are also teaching you about giraffes in the Serengeti, right? So at this point, I mean, why we've got better things to spend our money on. I mean, if I want to find out about giraffes in the Serengeti, I can go to countless other media sources to find that information out that are private, that are privately funded. So I guess that's my theory on this. Why do we need to spend tax dollars on that anymore? There's options out there.
Okay.
What do you think, Phil?
I don't agree with you.
Okay.
And here's why.
Okay.
Before I give that, let's bag up.
All right.
I think, and I've mentioned this several times before on different podcasts, before this is addressed, I think there needs to be legal address to the government's responsibility in education, period, before we even get into something like that. Is that in their purvey? And if it is not, then obviously this would get cut off.
Mm-hmm.
But we have, without law, decided that it's a moral obligation that the government provides a certain level of education to the United States people.
Yes. It's
now,
public education up to the 12th grade.
Depending upon the room I'm in, I may have agreed with everything that you just said. But here's the thing. Just quickly, Mike, my daughter's 25. So when she was entering school, I had already gotten her a cellular phone. She had a cell phone. Back then, I remember when we would go places and people would see her with the phone, they were like, wow, this is a little over the top.
Right.
And as time has gone on, I've seen the evolution now where it's almost considered child abuse if you got your kid out in the street somewhere without a phone.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
So it would be very easy for me to get into a conversation and be absorbed in the thought that we're all moved over to a digital society, television is obscure and kids aren't watching it. And yeah, that is for the demographic of people that you and I are around, but there's still millions of children who don't have a phone, won't be getting a phone until they get a job working at McDonald's and put away a few $100s to buy one. And they'll have to pay for their own cell service. So there are huge swaths of schools across the United States that still don't have a computer room, let alone computers in the room or tablets or something like that. I was fortunate enough where my daughter went to a school where Bill Gates provided computers for the whole school.
Yeah.
So it feels like what you said is true. When I look at my world, it looks like it's true, but it's not true. And there's still a huge amount of people who every day turn on a television that do not have the ability to watch television shows, game shows, whatever it is they want to watch anywhere else than television. What I'm getting to is there are a lot of kids that basically, if they're in a social economical situation, that if we go with what you're saying, cutting off PBS and NPR, they have nothing. Zero. They don't have going on their phone. They don't have YouTube. They don't have any of these things. Additionally, it's been broken down. It's a fact. The numbers are, it comes out to about $1.40 per American per year. $1.40 to fund these things. So we're not moving the needle, keeping it or not keeping it. It's literally a political football, and there are other things that we trick off money for in the government that are 20, 30 times the amount of money as this.
Yeah,
So,
one day is sending bombs to Israel.
Exactly. Now, the other side of me is this, Mike. Even though I just said all of that, my thing is if they are going to continue funding PBS and NPR, then they need to de-escalate the evolution that I have seen over the past 20 years into what it has become. It used to be that when they involved themselves in moral and ethical things on the show, which they did, that was one of the groundbreaking things about like Sesame Street.
Yep.
But they stuck to basic, fundamental moral and ethical views that everyone across the board agreed on. Love thy brother, don't steal, don't judge a book by its cover, blah, 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 blah. In the last 20 years, and especially the last 10 and the last 5, there's been an escalation into getting into these little personal decisions that people should be making with their mom and their dad. So, and then with the news, the NPR, it used to be almost like AP. They would just report the news. They may have one person who gave a quick little opinion, but the majority of it was just strictly news. So if they were to ever devolve back into just basic moral and ethics that we all agree on, stick to the education, and with the NPR, stick to news reporting, and that there was government control and regulation over that, and there was a stipulation of that with the funding, I'm for them moving forward on it, because there are a lot of people who are not as blessed as us that is their only option. So I want their option improved. I don't want it removed, because there's nothing replacing it. There's not that they can go home and get on their computer. There's still a bunch of kids who, if there is a computer in their home, it's shared by everyone in the home. There's no, I can get 2 or 3 hours straight and focus on learning something, that don't exist for everybody. So I'm not with that. But if they're going to continue the funding, it must have regulations. They must get religion out of it. They must get these social issues out of both the NPR and PBS.
I mean, I tend to agree with some of what you just said, Phil. I mean, one of the challenges, and I agree that there's a scenario. Not to get completely off topic, as we always do on this show,
right?
But I mean, where do we draw the line? And this is my frustration with the American education system in general, because you brought up education, and obviously there's a movement right now to get rid of the Department of Education as well. But and I agree with you that there are places in the United States, and certainly not everybody is of the same or has the same resources. I've had this argument. I think you and I had talked about this on the podcast, talking about the United States Postal Service, and my frustration has always been, well, can't we just get rid of the damn postal service? And then the argument always is, the people that live way out, how are they going to get communication? They maybe don't have these services, and blah, 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 blah. So my frustration is why can't we as a country spend the money on bringing society as a whole to a certain level? And let's just call it 2025 level for a second. And let's say that, can't we get everybody to a level where they have a cell phone, a personal device, or a computer that they can go on? They have internet access. Obviously, Elon Musk has launched Starlink for that very reason, because the argument was that people in the very remote parts of the country, they don't have access to the internet. Blah 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 blah. So it seems like the days of turning on your television with rabbit ears and sucking it out of the thing. I mean, that when are we going to move on? I guess the problem is that what I hear you say, and I don't disagree with what you're saying, we have to go to the lowest common denominator.
Yes.
Meaning that I hear what you're saying. The problem is what my frustration is that it would be nice if we could get that lowest common denominator higher or at a different place. You know what I'm saying? So that way you don't know. Well, because that way we could all have the benefit of these pool, let's call it a pool of resources. Because basically you're saying that John Smith in backwoods Montana, who relies on the U.S. Postal Service because FedEx doesn't dare go there. They don't have internet because, there's no cable underground. They don't have, they can't watch YouTube because they don't have internet. So they have to rely on rabbit ears and PBS. I mean, at what point, when do we cut that off?
I agree with the idea of what you said, but you're talking like a responsible parent to a child. At some point, you need to grow up, and we need to level the playing field. I agree with that in the way you just presented it, but we're talking about government. If we do what you just said, then we shouldn't have a government. The only purpose of the government is to fill in the gaps. If it's not going to do its job, then I don't want to pay the taxes. Mm-hmm. I already complain about I don't get nothing from it already. So everything I'm talking about really is about what other people get from my money.
Which we can argue that you get third party because it creates a society that is more stable that you benefit from.
But I have to value that.
You do.
I tell my wife all the time, bro, I relish the idea of things collapsing and being dystopian. I'm more prepared for that.
Yeah.
So, and I know I'm unusual, and I'm actually not that unusual because I talk to people all the time that's on the same page as me. Yeah. I don't like the idea that very unmasculine men feel very comfortable talking smack to me in my face because we live in this civilized society and they know I ain't gonna punch him in their face.
Right.
I would like to get back to a time where you gotta be a man to get man privileges.
Right.
So I'm not the one, but I get your point. I'm that anomaly, Mike.
Yeah. No, I understand. So let's get back to,
and that would really be a time where we would be living in a situation where everybody would be responsible for themselves. As long as there is a government, it owes you something.
Yes.
Or why do you exist?
My microphone just did something weird. Do I still sound the same?
It did something weird, but you sound perfect now.
Okay. Let's get back to for a second to the PBS NPR thing and talk about the politics. I didn't even bring up politics when I was talking about it because the argument, though, is that it is become a platform, and I think you alluded to this, has become a platform for propaganda or to try to sway opinion.
No different than CBS.
But the difference is CBS is owned by shareholders and a private organization.
Oh, I agree. There's no difference in what they're presenting to the public.
Yes, agreed.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I could join the Phil team here a little bit more if you told me that it serves a need for children growing up in places that are more disadvantaged or don't have the connections or whatever. And they didn't have a news hour, and they didn't have, not that I'm watching.
They can have a news hour, but don't give your damn opinion.
Phil, I remember when PBS had the news where the guy got on in front of this. It looked like a desk was set up with a couple cinder blocks and a board on the top of it, right? And he had a hokey little microphone, and he's like, "Today, 12 people died in London in a fiery
It's
train crash. And then he moved on to the next story, right? But the problem is that we have become, here's the issue. PBS is competing with YouTube. They're competing with CBS. They're competing with Fox News. They're competing with all these things so now the guy's sitting at a fancy desk. He's got graphics behind him. He's got green screens. He's got, and then they have inevitably, John, what do you think of this situation? You know, I mean, and that's the part where it's not news anymore. What do you think? Which, by the way, just described CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC, right? I mean, that's all they talk about is what do they think.
So, Mike, I want to run something past you. This is something I've been putting together for a while, and you just opened the door for this. Okay.
Shit. Okay.
I'm just going to read. Here we go.
Yeah.
It's called "Where Have All the Skeptics Gone? Media Conformity and the Death of Dissent." We're told Walter Cronkite. This is me. I wrote this. We're told Walter Cronkite was the most trusted man in America, a titan of journalism. But I want to challenge that legacy because maybe Cronkite wasn't the gold standard. Maybe he was the prototype, the first in a long line of newsmen trained to deliver whatever the powers that be loaded onto the teleprompter, calm and authoritative and unquestioning. Fast forward to today, and it's hard not to see the ripple effect. Political opinion pieces sound nearly identical, whether they're on the left or the right. The same phrases, the same framing, the same pre-approved outrage. It's as if dissent, skepticism, and critical thinking have been slowly pushed out of the mainstream. What used to be part of healthy discourse is now treated like a liability. And yet, people are clearly hungry for something different. So the point of, and I haven't finished that. That was just a little blurb that I started with. But what I'm trying to get to in this article, and like I said, I haven't finished it, is that ever since like the 70s, and I've created a little time thing that I haven't finished yet either, where you'll see since like the 60s and 70s, our whole lives, we have been seeing everything that's on a screen as entertainment. There has been no really like publicly funded, neutral anything on a screen since the 70s, period.
Yep.
And PBS could not exist without giving an opinion. The only way that they can survive and get funded, in my opinion, is they have to be separate, from the entertainment business.
Yes.
And remain funded, but they have to have some rules and regulations.
Yeah. And that's difficult. I mean, you used Walter Cronkite, which I remember because we're old enough, but let me use Dan Rather because he was kind of Walter Cronkite's replacement.
Absolutely.
To talk about what you just said about Walter Cronkite is very true. Look at Dan Rather today. Okay. Dan Rather's still alive. Dan Rather's still in media. Dan Rather's still doing interviews. And if you listen to him, he's very opinionated. And we were brought up when he was on the news as he was he took over the reins from Walter Cronkite, and he was the news guy that was unbiased. Well, shit, you could see that that's not the case. I mean,
not
just
at
look
all.
at it today, right? So that kind of outlines maybe for you guys that are a little younger than us. You remember Dan Rather, I guess.
It used to be.
I don't even know who's on the news now.
It used to be whatever they read on that teleprompter, you had no recourse. You had no place
gospel.
Yeah.
That's right. So now here's the ironic thing. We've all changed our culture, right? Because Phil, when I listen to the news, regardless of what channel or what network or what media it's on, the first thing I do is go Google it. Right? I mean, if I see something on TikTok, oh, so-and-so died, first thing I do, Google it. because you don't know. It could be AI, it could be a hoax, could be whatever. Half the time it is. But it's no different than watching Fox News. I mean, they'll say something and you'll be like, or run you some stat that in the old days we treat as gospel. And you hear this stat, 89% of the people said this, and you go, wait a minute. And then you look it up. Yeah, okay, not really. 89% of the people that were in that room on the third floor of the Fox building.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like,
my kids do not understand how powerful the information is that they have, and how lucky they are to have access to the amount of information they had. Because I remember back in the day, Mike, I was a little nerdy. So I didn't always just leave it to whatever the person said. But in order for me to research them, I had to know the Dewey Decimal System. Right. I had to know how to use microfiche and look up
God.
Bruh.
I remember that.
Here's the thing.
You could spend hours to get to like 3 sentences.
Right. And here's the killer, Mike. You could spend all day in that library, and then you're like, oh no, you have to go to a college library. Yep. You go to the college library and they're like, oh no, you have to go to the master's program library. Right. So it would be like literally these books weren't readily available even everywhere. You couldn't even order them everywhere.
That's true.
There were books that were literally like only at college libraries.
Yep.
There was 20 copies.
And thus Amazon was born.
There's people on here going, the Dewey Decimal System.
Yeah, what the shit is that?
That was Google. That was, you know how when you first Google, you learn how to ask the kind of question to get the right answer. Even with AI, it's like that. Well, back in our day, you had to know the Dewey Decimal System to get your answers.
Yep.
And be friends with a librarian.
That's right. Because inevitably the book that you're looking for was sitting on the damn cart in the library because somebody had brought it and hadn't put it back on the shelf yet.
Right. And if you were cool, Phil, this just came in. Go ahead. I'll
check it in, and then you could check it right out.
Right. I couldn't think of the words.
Yeah. Oh boy.
So Mike, so you kind of answered it, but I want to be clear. Is public media essential for democracy and civil education?
I'm going to agree with you. What I liked, my favorite sentence that you said was that it's there to fill the gaps in what is not being able to, and it's different for everybody, what information they're not able to obtain. So you and I might have infinite resources to obtain information where somebody else does not. So it fills the gaps to bridge the gap between my source of information and the guy I just described in backwoods Montana that doesn't have all the resources that I may or may not have. So I can see there's a source, but okay.
But your rebuttal, Mike, I agreed with. I do believe that we need to make whatever the lowest standard be higher. I agree with that. Why can't we have the ability to get this information to people digitally all over the United States? And
we actually do, but we're not doing it.
But here's the killer, Mike. If you really analyze some of the biggest problems that we have in America, the solution will actually solve other problems.
Yes.
Like our roads and our education. If we focused on what we needed to do for those things, that would be a lot of jobs.
Yes.
That would be people being able to buy phones and pay for higher education.
Yep.
It's like a circle, and when you take a piece out of the chain, it just ruins it.
Well, look, knowledge, we've said this before, knowledge is power, right? So if you take away knowledge, what it creates is people that are ignorant. That this is where discrimination and racism, and I hate, I don't like the Mexicans, I don't like this or whatever. That's where that comes from. It comes from ignorance, right? If they're not well educated, if they didn't get to watch PBS and see, oh shit, look at all that cool stuff that's going on in Africa. If they didn't see any of that, they're going to be like, "Oh God, that dirty, nasty place." So that's But okay, I'm gonna throw you a screwball here, Phil, because
Come
this
on
is
with
something
it.
else it's been something else I've been thinking about because we talked about this on I don't know a dozen podcasts ago when we got rid of USAID. Okay, and I've seen some arguments because this is a very similar situation, very similar scenario, and I've seen a couple arguments in. Well, hold on.
I'm listening. I'm not going to interrupt.
Well, what it's brought out is that there's so this is I'm gonna bring it all back together for you. So I've seen some arguments, real life arguments, where we took away some of these programs, and it has become detrimental to the place that we took it away from. I'm going to use one example I happened to see in the news the other day, and I have a point to this, and I know what you're going to say, but I got a point. So one of them is because I it's near and dear to me. I've been there. So in Eastern Congo, there was a bunch of programs that we took away that were part of the USAID thing, where it's basically the rape capital of the world. And if you've been through there, there's gangs, there's whatever. There were a lot of programs for people, particularly women. And not just getting raped, but then also getting HIV, whatever. And I saw this article, and I looked at it, and I go, well, hold on. And all of a sudden, the blame came back to the United States government because you guys took this away. And I said, well, hold on a second here. This is the Congo. This isn't the United States, and we're not supposed to be. Where's China? Where's Russia? Where's Sweden? Where's France? Where are the? Why is it you? Why? Because the guy in the article was talking about that the U.S. basically pulled out of that region and no longer supports these people. And these programs are very similarly funded to like PBS or NPR, where we're putting money into a quasi public private thing, and when we withdraw the money, the thing collapses. Okay, great. So then they're saying, well, it's the United States, is a bad guys because they pull out of this thing. Well, what this, and the reason I brought this up is what we've highlighted is there are other ways to accomplish things outside of just the United States government, whether that's private funding for things. Elon Musk as an example. I'll use him as an example. We go Ukraine war. All of a sudden, he turns on for free, gives a bunch of people Starlink and whatever. Well, I mean, there's a lot of people in America that could use free Starlink too, out in the middle of nowhere. And I'm not saying Elon Musk is the only guy capable of doing this, but going back to the Congo thing is, what about other countries? Why is it always America? So the reason for HIV and the reason all these women are getting raped and not being able to be treated is why is it? Why are we the knight in shining armor? We talk about world powers. We talk about China and Russia and other countries. Well, they're not doing shit either. And I just want to bring that up. Off topic, but it was a frustrating thing because as you heard me say, I was all for getting rid of USAID because it's spending money. Unless we can translate it directly to how it's helping us as an American citizen, then this is not money that is being well spent. And that was the definition.
Okay. I agree with you, Mike.
Yeah. Well, I didn't think you were going to disagree, but
any dollar going to anybody that ain't American, I could give less.
But what it's highlighted is, and is very similar to Trump and the United Nations or NATO, and chipping in for the war in Ukraine and defending Europe and all this stuff. Finally, I feel like finally, it is now time for the world as a whole, because we always talk about the world. We're together, the world. We talk about during COVID, it was all about the WHO, World Health Organization. Well, If we're gonna act like the world, then let's act like the world. So if somebody's getting raped in the Congo,
but we say we not like the world. We say we are above the fray. We say that we are our brother's keeper.
Well,
that has been our edict ever since I've been alive.
Agreed.
I don't agree with it. My problem with everything, Mike.
Brandon was giving me a fan. I need a fan here on this podcast. Hot as fuck.
We shouldn't have been supporting all these countries, and we shouldn't support all these countries. The strategies that they give is it's a chess move. You give these countries the money, they feel a certain way, they're endeared toward America. But that sounds good, but that is not what happens.
No.
It might.
Exactly, and that's my point.
Let's say you're a billionaire and you befriend me. Right?
Yep.
And I'm really your friend. I'm really your friend, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
But I ain't got no money.
Yep.
And you're like, okay, I'm traveling the world. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I want Phil hanging with me. So I'm going to facilitate it financially because he's my homie. I don't care. This is nothing to me, right?
Yes.
I will enjoy traveling with you. Eventually, there will be a resentment towards you taking care of me.
Yep.
There will be, it's a natural, innate thing.
And I think
that's what happened. That's what I was about to say. That's what has happened over time to America. You talk to people from these countries that's getting aid, they don't talk in no kind of loving way about America. They be like down with America.
Quite to the contrary. And
they'll fly here, enroll in one of our schools, and be on the lawn of the school talking about F America.
Yep. And that was what I saw from this article, was saying, how everybody, we've been funding this thing in the Congo for shit since I was there. And now we took it away, and now they're down on America. Well, whatever happened to being up on America for the last 25, 30 years? No. We got the negative. My point to the whole thing is, if we worked as a team, meaning, if it was, and I know it's a slippery slope because, as you know, I can't stand the United Nations. I think that organization should be put out of business anyways. But if you had a United Nations truly that actually did something where everybody chipped in fairly based on some mathematical equation, and that's how aid went to places. And I'll turn that whole discussion back to our NPR PBS thing. If there was a way that we could all make sure that all the people that needed those resources got them, but it came from a variety of places. So what I mean by that is, I think what the discussion lately on the PBR thing is then that it's skewed so far left that it no longer is representative of all parties.
I agree with that.
So
that's how I started. But
exactly.
they shouldn't have any slant.
That's right.
They shouldn't even touch topics that people aren't. They should only touch 80-20 topics where at least 80% of us agree on that.
Yep. I agree. So anyways, I know that's gone full circle on that whole discussion, but yeah, that's what we do on the podcast. We got to roll a lot of things into it, a lot of things.
So Mike, what was I going to say?
I'm afraid when Phil says, so Mike, I go, we got a new topic, and it's going to be what?
Mike, I'm a nerd, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. We always thought Minority Report was have you ever seen the movie Minority Report?
Yes.
With Tom Cruise, Philip K. Dick.
Yeah.
Okay. We always thought that Minority Report was a chilling piece of science fiction But what if we're already beta testing its logic in real life? Right now, artificial intelligence is inching into spaces where the stakes couldn't be higher. We're talking about drones using facial recognition and movement analysis, possibly making real-time kill decisions without a human in the loop. There's algorithms in HR and military clearance systems flagging someone as unfit, not because of anything they've done, but because of something they might do based on pattern recognition and risk scores. Mike, here's the question. Are we crossing a moral line by allowing AI to make irreversible decisions, especially when those decisions affect whether someone lives, works, or even exists in society?
Loaded question. I will say that I've seen.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, nothing. I expect nothing but that. I will say lately I've seen some pushback to AI. I think we might have talked about this. I don't know if we talked about this. I can't remember what we talked about on the last podcast, but YouTube has put in a policy now that they're not going to monetize stuff that's blatantly AI or rehashed out. People have, I don't know if you remember, for a while there were videos all the time of fake. I call it like just fake stuff. I know marketing campaigns had like little AI, like van life events, had little AI vans parked in circles and stuff, and everything. Yeah, I want just to fucking throw up about all that shit. Like it got so overplayed, it was disgusting. And then we got into the AI where you get the recently I've seen some on TikTok, especially where you get the old people saying, nasty stuff and whatever. It's AI voices and whatever. And that's getting played out. I think that's passing. So I think there's a pushback on AI in general in our quote society. I think people are just kind of sick of it. The uses of it, though, outside of that stuff, like the in your face fake stuff, Donald Trump talking stupid when it's not him. And I think that stuff's all played out at this point. I mean, like anybody that's still doing that is like dating themselves. But the uses of making decisions, a computer making a decision or analyzing something, like as an example here, we are nomads. Bert and I were talking about this the other day. You can send your medical stuff in to some of these telehealth things now, and they'll run it through AI that says, I don't think this is skin cancer. You send them some picture, whatever, stuff like that. There are uses for AI for sure. The military, as you mentioned about life or death. I mean, yeah, I think under certain circumstances, making an artificial intelligence making a decision can do it quicker, which might mean safer, might mean saving lives on the other end of it, instead of relying 100% on human. Well, microphone fell here, on human intelligence. And sometimes, as you know, us humans are skewed by our preconceived ideas or thoughts. I don't know. We'll see. I know I'm not answering the question, but
I think that in the context of this question, AI should only be used in situations where a human being could not achieve the same efficiency without risking their life or health or something like that.
Yeah.
So let's say there's a submarine down at the bottom of the ocean and there's people inside.
Mm-hmm.
I want an AI sub to go down there and save them.
Yes.
I don't want to risk more people going down there to save them. You get what I'm saying?
Yep.
But
or even running the scenario through an AI program to come up with, let's say time is of the essence, they're going to run out of air in 12 minutes. I mean, it's possible that AI could come up with a solution faster than human intelligence.
I agree. I also think it can come up with a wrong answer as quick as a human too. And then there are sometimes decisions that border outside of logic on first analysis. And it takes a human literally seeing the situation and actually having emotion and all of those things that we look at negatively in a decision. So I'm not against it. I'm just I'm not willing to agree on just let it be involved in everything.
We're not there yet. It's not that good. I mean, I've talked about this on the podcast before, even in like translation programs. You know, you go to Google Translate or whatnot. I use it down here in Mexico a lot. Most of that's run through AI, right? The AI is reading it and translating what and I have found now that my Spanish has gotten better, that it's wrong like 70% of the time. I mean, it's wrong a lot. So I don't trust AI at a high level at this point. It's not that good still.
I envision some AI system that we've gotten sort of comfortable with and it killing someone and there being some major court case or court cases. And I'm already picturing the way it's going to be presented legally.
Agreed.
Where the AI is like, okay, yeah, it killed this person, but it's this percentage of the time that it's been successful when it's been a human involved. No matter what, the percentage is half of what the success rate of this is. No matter what, in life-saving situations, there's a percentage of loss that is understood. You can't save everyone. I can literally see AI being the scapegoat and the escape route for a lot of organizations when they are in a legal bind.
Yep.
They'll just throw out statistics. There's nobody to interrogate, and all the numbers will factor toward the favor of the AI. You'll only be able to look at numbers.
Yep.
You won't be able to be like Mike. Well, you know, Mike hates guys with glasses or
right. Yeah. Yep.
So should an AI be allowed to determine someone's career future, especially when those systems are black boxes and can't explain their reasoning? You know, just like I said, you're not going to be able to be like, so did
I
you
got news
decide?
for you. They're already doing that because they're running like SAT scores and they're running student interviews for college and stuff through AI to determine what they would best be suited to study in college.
Well, I can't. I'll have to pull it up, but I just read a few days ago, not even a week ago, the top tech places. I know Microsoft was one of them here in Washington.
Yep.
Like the top 5 have all gotten rid of several of their they'll have like multiple HR departments. They have gotten rid of HR departments and replaced them with AI fully, 100% fully. Not leaving somebody. I mean, the whole department is gone.
Yep.
And it was replaced by AI. So I also don't like the idea of software replacing a human. You have taken away a livelihood for somebody to make a few more dollars at the top. Because you ain't gonna everybody's losing but the people at the top.
Yeah.
With the AI.
Well, I mean, that's our general theme of I think the podcast is sponsored by that.
It probably is if you dig down deep enough. Okay, so I got a question for you, Mike.
All right.
Are you familiar with? I want to know about Trump. You know, Trump just secured a major legislative win, his biggest policy package since returning to power. But instead of unified celebration, parts of his base are furious. First, he's now pushing a plan to shield some migrant workers from deportation, a sharp turn from his mass deportation promises. Second, his administration abruptly announced they have nothing more to reveal about Jeffrey Epstein after I don't know how many years of them telling us, well, he did this and we know he did that and we can't wait to get it in there to show you this and to show you that. And third, Trump reversed course on the Ukraine. He's now pledging more weapons just days after MAGA influencers praised the Pentagon for hitting the pause with the ceasefire. I was one of them stupid idiots talking about bragging on him doing that. And supporters are now calling his strategies hypocritical. What do you think? Is this Trump evolving? Is he evolving to win over moderates? Or is he starting to lose the very movement that he built?
Well, I'm going to start with the Epstein thing because it's on my mind, and it's the biggest current event thing probably going on this week. And this is a legit question to our listeners out there. I want to know, write to us this week and tell us why you think that they did not, or say they're not going to release, or basically claiming that there isn't anything else to release. And it's interesting because this is the first time I think I've seen people on the far right and on the far left actually in agreement. There's quite a wave of people that want more information on Epstein release. Now, what would be the reason? And I'm being realistic here. What would be the reason that? Because let's break it down for a second. When we first heard about this news break, everybody was blaming Pam Bondi, and the argument between Pam Bondi and the guy at the FBI. Now, can we all just agree that? I mean, I'm pretty sure. I don't know about you, Phil, that this is coming from Trump. This is coming from the top. Pam Bondi didn't make a decision to not release anything. This is Trump making that, right? Okay, so if we can agree on that, I've got some liberal friends out there that immediately go, "Oh, that's because Trump's got something to hide." I don't know that I buy that either. I buy. My opinion is, and I've looked at lists. If you've looked at lists of people that were involved with Epstein, which I did this week, I decided to do some research. And I looked at all the things that were mentioned during Maxwell's trial. I looked at stuff that.
How did you get a list?
Well, because it's out there. I mean, there's both a bunch of different lists out there of people that flew to his island. There's all sorts of different lists. And that, by the way, none of these people are necessarily guilty of anything. It's just that they either knew him well, were friends with him, went to parties, went to his island, flew on his plane. Various stuff, but the list is so extensive. Trump's on there, Clinton's on there, Bill Gates is on there, the Kennedys, almost the entire Kennedy family, from Ted Kennedy to Maria Shriver to it goes on and on and on. Obviously Prince Andrew. People far and wide, both in industry, in politics, in show business, actors and actresses. I mean, there was all sorts of people on this list. So my point to the whole thing, though, is I broke down the list. If you look at the list, at least 50% of the people on the list were Republican and 50% were Democrat. So it wasn't like he hung out with Republicans or hung out with Democrats. So the political motivation to not release this list, I would question at a high level. I would, Andrew Cuomo was on there. It just went on. Some of the people were surprising. So I don't know that. I don't buy the thing that Trump's not releasing it because Trump doesn't want people to find out that he went to the. And people already know that they were friends. So I don't buy that. Do I think for a second, and this also goes along with your change in policy to Russia, change in policy to the migrant workers. Do I think that for a second that Trump doesn't get influenced by individual people and money?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. So do I think that there's maybe some wealthy guy on this list, if there is a list, or if there's not a list, there's some evidence somewhere, and he's telling Trump, you can't release this. You can't release this. Here, I'll do this. I'll do this. I'll do this. Yep. I'll buy that. Do I think it's Trump? No, I don't think it's actually Trump worrying about himself.
I'm not even going to try and figure out who it is, Mike. You've had some mobility in your life. I'm going back to the mobility thing. Okay. I lived in Northern Virginia. I lived in D.C. It's a Sodom and Gomorrah when it comes to politicians. They have swinger parties, and I'm not telling you what I think. I'm telling you what I know. The swinger parties, certain politicians have like these ranches in the middle of Virginia that they'll throw parties at, and everybody will come down in their limos. I told you about, there used to be a bar literally across the street from the White House that people used. It was in a hotel where people would just go to hook up and stuff like that. My point is, you're talking about a demographic of people on that list who have the proclivity to do these things.
Yes.
First of all,
the one thing that they all have in common is money.
But what I'm getting to is, I think they're all. I believe there's like 3 degrees of separation from everybody else in government, and there's probably, considering there's so many people in politics and high places that are involved in this, just knowing how the world works, Mike, what's the chances of that the FBI, the CIA, or some other investigative community is investigating like half of these guys on the list, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Does that sound reasonable?
Yep.
Okay, so if we're going with that, then that would mean that what's probably happening is that a lot of those names on the list, there's a legal organization that's come in and be like, nope, you can't do this. We're currently doing an investigation about this. So let's say I'm on the list. You guys got me on the list for a little girl, but the FBI has me for being the world's biggest drug trafficker or whatever. They want me for that. They don't want to give me up on the list. Right. And considering how many people is on this list, considering the positions that there are, I'm venturing to say that there's a bunch of investigations going on half these people, totally not related to this. And there have been probably 100 or more different times that somebody legally has come in and said, no, you can't go move forward with this list because we're doing an investigation. This is something that happens regularly, where we have somebody in our hands and they're like, no, let them go. Yeah. Because we're investigating them for something else. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's a very plausible thing. I don't know what you guys out there in Listenerville think, but I would agree there with Phil that there's something more to it that they can't say. I think.
Oh, whoa! No! I'm not saying that's the only thing. I'm just saying. I'm saying there's probably like 10 different things out there. That
is one reason for sure. And like you said, all those people that potentially, if there is a list, have in common is that they're wealthy, right? So they all have the means to wine, dine, and sway Donald Trump, if you will, to be like, I can't have it. I mean, it could be Prince Andrew. For who knows? Look, Trump, you can't release this list. I'll give you whatever you need or whatever you want or whatever. Can't do it. So do I think that that's plausible? Absolutely. I think it's been handled poorly. You know, I think they could do much better PR. I mean, we've talked about this before. That's what Trump's strong suit is. I think in this case, he's not doing a very good job of this. He's looking terrible.
I think he thought that he would come into office and be like, yeah, see, I've appointed this person for the Epstein files, and I've got this person addressing all these issues that I talked about, right? Mm-hmm. And that we would only stick with the big issues and that this stuff would die down eventually.
Yeah. No.
He did not realize how big a deal this was to the population. We're more into the sensationalism stuff. P. Diddy was big news for no reason forever.
Right.
Well, I
mean, Trump was the one that
you got more people following. He played it up because he saw they were interested, but he did not understand how interested they were.
Yep. Yep.
He thought that this would drop off in our minds for something else. But the average stupid American, that's the only thing they care about is the list.
Sadly,
He could solve everything. But if I don't know who's on this list and what nasty things they've done, I'm not entertained. This goes back to the beginning. We have been conditioned to entertainment news. We don't care about if he had passed 10 bills that changed the world.
Yep. And I think you're seeing some of the cracks you're seeing in Trump right now is caused by his own personality. Like you brought up Ukraine. I think he's pissed at Putin. He's pissed. He's butthurt, and he's like, "Well, screw him. I'm going to send them more missiles. Then I'm going to send whatever to Ukraine." I think that's what that's about. And I think to some extent, some of that with the immigration thing, he's got people on the right going, "Hey, who's going to mow my lawn?" He's got those people on him too. And Trump doesn't like to be not liked. That's his weakness.
I agree with that. But I also think Trump is doing exactly what the leader of the Ukraine did when he was in the White House that day and they attacked him.
Mm-hmm.
He still stood on his ground.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening with Trump is he thought he had a certain kind of relationship with Putin, and now Putin is making him look like, I don't care about Trump.
Right.
He's making him look bad.
Yep.
That's what's happening. So Trump has got to do something to make himself look like that dude again.
Yep.
That's my opinion.
The problem is he's playing both sides of the fence because
he got punked by Putin.
He got punked by him, but he's sending Ukraine a bunch of weapons. But the problem is he also gave Russia 50 days. Where the hell did he come up with 50 days? 50 days. I mean, that's basically giving Putin a gift. If he's got 50 days more to bomb the shit out of Kiev or something, I mean, that's a win for Russia.
Well, this also could be a chess move. It could be exactly what you just said, but I want to look like I wasn't involved. He might be setting the Ukraine up.
Yep.
Anything else you want to say, Mike?
No, I gotta get some cooling going on down here. It's a little. By the way, when I say it's hot, I know for my friends up in America, you guys are going to say I'm whining. We're about 88 degrees. And the humidity for us is high right now. It's like 68, maybe 70%. So in all, it's not that bad compared to a lot of places. But for us, it's warm.
Mike, ain't nobody feeling sorry for you on the beach
I know.
in Mexico.
Yeah, I get it.
Including me. All right, guys, you know what I'm going to say. Stay safe, tread lightly. And hopefully we'll see you here or on the trail soon.
You have been listening to Waypoint Overland's Random Waypoints. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.